At the start of Chapter 1, Holmevik reveals that the inspiration for intervention started long ago with the iconic Commodore 64, which I remember very well. I too recall the blue ready screen and the sense of excitement that accompanied the fun that was just behind it. Little did I know that passion for play would lead me many years later, right here, to the RCID program. While I never programmed that old lunar lander game, I do recall having it on a floppy disk and spending many hours playing. I remember going to software sharing parties with my folks, where groups of people would bring all of the games they had acquired to be copied and given to others. These were the emerging days of the hacker culture, where collaboration was soon to be king. Patricia Bazell's notion that we can never escape our personal emotions, social circumstances, and historical conditions, and can therefore never arrive at an absolute standard of truth, comes into play heavily here. Indeed, it seems as though these three elements are critical components of the hacker mindset. Hacker, as it is used in the book Intervention, is not the popular culture representation. He or she is not the nerd in mom's basement wreaking online havoc by creating viruses and disrupting networks, although they sometimes do. Instead, Holmevik's hacker is the inventor bricoleur who through play becomes the maker and driver of innovation. Therefore, the title of the book, Intervention, is representative of this alternative view of the hacker. The hacker intervenes, and as scholars and educators, we too must intervene, or disrupt or subvert the dominant modes of the use of technology in our research and teaching practices. We must adopt the ideology of play. This leads me to Ulmer's electracy as being situated within the realm of entertainment. Instead of writing across the curriculum, perhaps we should be playing across the curriculum. Playing for the sake of play, for the pure pleasure of it, and through the process of conductive thinking, we can become makers and inventors as we arrive in surprising places. In literacy, the procedure is method, that of establishing the true and the false. In electracy, however, the procedure is style. As Dick Hebdige notes, style is the area in which opposing definitions clash with the most dramatic force. Our style of play and pedagogy, then, can clash with the institution's view of approaching digital literacy from the antiquated literary platform. We can refuse and disobey. In the digital age, we must resist this approach. Ulmer suggests the mystery as a means to do this. He wants the mystery in electracy to assume the role of the traditional essay in literacy. Instead of separating ourselves as objective analysts, we adopt the gonzo approach and insert ourselves into our areas of inquiry. After all, how can we not? Levi Strauss's notion of the bricoleur then becomes an ideal model for how, through play, we can become inventors in the electric apparatus. As hackers, we can take the tools and artifacts readily available to us, subvert their meanings, and create through recreating. That is, through conductive thinking, we can rearrange these things in ways that inventions find meaning only after we have invented them. The hacker's bricoleur operates out of both necessity and the love of play. Technologies are developed, but they often do not fulfill precisely the function we need. Through the love of play, then, these technologies can be broken apart, reassembled, and added to create something new, something that is closer to what we are seeking, and something that has a part of ourselves in it. Holmevik then shifts gears and begins a conductive history of the computing world. What is useful here, and what is sure to be referred to later in the work, is the evolution of programmable computers and the highly influential roles that hackers played in it. In this photo, ENIAC is used as an example as the first digital programmable computer. It was through the development of computer languages that the hackers really made their mark. As computers transitioned from being strictly machines used for complex calculations and began to be used in communication technologies, that the real exciting developments began to occur. Hackers began to play with these languages to suit their own needs. From this perspective, the computer can begin to be seen as the digital sandbox of play. These early pieces of hardware, coupled with the advancement of programming languages, became the raw materials, the pre-existing tools, for the hacker/bricoleur to seize and begin to use in ways in which they were never explicitly intended. Hackers were able to do this by accessing the source codes of the computer programs. The source code, for those of us who are not programmers, is basically the program represented in a readable format. With the proper knowledge and skill set, a hacker can manipulate the source code and use it to alter the program to fit their unique and often unfulfilled needs. Through collaborative efforts, these early computer languages eventually paved the way for the creation of the personal computer. Earlier, computers were too large and expensive for a consumer market. But as technologies advanced and these computer languages advanced, they became feasible. The commercial software market was then created through the birth of video games. The immediate explosion and success of the video game market is indicative of the importance of play in our culture and our lives. As we fast forward from computing's childhood to whatever we want to call it today, as the computing world is still relatively young, we have seen gaming culture grow into a multi-billion-dollar industry and become a focus of important academic investigation. All of these advances would not have been possible without the involvement and influence of hackers. And wow, who knew? But email was also a hacker creation. Holmevik quotes Ray Tomlinson, one of the first to create and use email, as saying that he created it to, quote, mostly because it seemed like a neat idea. There was no directive to go forth and invent email. The Tomlinson quote is an excellent example of how we need to rethink our modes of invention and reposition them within Ulmer's electric apparatus. Tomlinson openly admits that there is no end goal in mind. Through playing around with computers and perhaps thinking conductively, he stumbled across a creation that would ultimately change the world in huge ways. So hacker culture is still very much alive and has become an ever-shifting and dynamic entity that adapts to new technologies as quickly as they emerge. Hacktivism has become the convergence of hacking and social activism, the subversion of the technologies that create and enforce the hegemonic powers, turned against itself to disrupt them. So what we have seen in intervention thus far is the reinvention or redefining of the hacker from being a malevolent nerd to a conductive innovator within the electric apparatus. Always already residing in the world of play, the hacker explores, subverts, reinvents, and recreates, not with any clear final destination in mind, but inventing through play as bricoleurs.